or Sunday evening for me. We'll start in just a couple minutes, I'm assuming. So we'll get everyone in.
Recording.
Oh, just a minute, because I was going to do this.
Anyway, yeah, it was fine.
Nice. You like it?
It looks like Gary Kahn was trying to talk, but the mute button was on. I'm not sure.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Diane.
Oh.
Rabbi Gary, I think I bumped into the camera in the chapel there, and it's pointed off into the pews.
Hello, Danielle. How are you?
Oh, Hashem, I'm doing great.
Good to see you.
Air conditioning's not working, but it's only the second or third heat wave we've had this year.
Yeah,
It'll be gone tomorrow.
yeah. For
What's
Rosh
it
Hashanah,
like? The air
for Rosh
quality. is
Hashanah, it'll be
definitely
cool and beautiful. This is a very beautiful garden.
For obvious reasons, I am not opening the window.
Oh. Yeah, it's not as smoky today as it was yesterday. So,
Mm.
I'm here, fortunately.
And nor is it's not as windy either.
yeah. Priscilla, good to see you.
Thank you, Aaron. Good to see you too. How are you?
Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem. Everything is good.
This is good.
Oh, rats! I missed my opportunity to make Allison laugh and get a good spit take there.
Why, did you say a joke or something?
No, I missed my chance to say a joke when you had your mouth full.
Well, I'll be drinking a lot, Daniel. I'm very parched because of the fires, so you have many opportunities.
Yeah, but now you know I'm here, and so it Speaking of beverage, I'll be right back.
Hi, Abby Leighton
Abby Layton, is she there?
Oh my goodness.
is here.
Yeah.
See.
And there's Marge Jacobson. Hi, Marge.
Hello to everybody. So nice to see you all.
Hello. Oh. Some faces here that I haven't seen for a long time.
And a big hello to Rob Nahama. And we're so glad you're coming, and we're so glad that you're going to be leading us. We look forward to it.
Me too. Thank you so much. And I have to say, even before this meeting, felt such warmth and love, and just really looking forward to touching ground and meeting everyone in person. So thank you. I appreciate that. And I think we're going to get started. We'll get started. What do you think?
Right, and we have more people in the who are registered, but I'll continue to monitor the waiting room and let people in. And just a reminder, if you're not the presenter, to please mute yourselves so we can enjoy one voice at a time. And I think Rabbi Oren is going to say hello and lead us off here.
I
He
thought I
has to
saw
swallow
Aaron's
what
name.
he's chewing first.
I would never do such a thing. Friends, I can't tell you what a treat and how good it's been to meet with Rav Nama on Wednesday mornings at 10:30 our time, and after a long day work for her in Jerusalem as we prepared for the high holidays. I've shared with many of you that it has been a treat and a treasure, and her davening is beautiful, but her real love and passion of Torah comes through in everything that she does. And I think we're going to be blessed that she'll help us, invite us to move to a higher plane.
Sorry, Rabbi, I accidentally muted you while I was muting somebody else.
You always wanted to do that, Jimmy, I know. I don't know what got cut off, but I was just saying what a treat it has been to prepare for these high holidays. I think we are blessed to have Rav Nahman lead us and help us try to go le'ela, higher and higher. And I've asked her today, before we do anything else, to just ground us that we're in Elul, that we're in this month when we're meant to search our souls and find the rough spots that we can smooth out, say sorries for some of the hurts that we've created in the world, and just ground us in that before we do anything else today. And she's going to lead us in a nigun. So you got to sing along. The only way we can know you're singing is if your mouth moves, right? We can't hear you because we can't sing together on Zoom. So it's sing loud where you are.
Thank you, Rabbi Oren. And I'll get to talking a bit later. And as he mentioned, we thought it would be nice to just start with some singing together. Some of you, maybe especially Chazan Avitel's, knows this nigun. It's a Joey nigun. I figured I'd give you guys a bit of a preview to the Joey weekend that you have next Shabbat and next weekend. Bina's nigun is the name of the nigun, and it goes a little bit like this. Hiya da 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 ya da halla didi da da hi da da didi da da halla didi da da ya da da yanda didi da da halla didi da da hi da da didi da da halla didi da da ya da da yanda didi da da hi da da didi da da ya da da didi da da hi da da hi da ya da da yanda didi da da hi da da didi da da ya da da didi da da hi da da yanda ya da da yanda didi da da yanda didi da da hi da da didi da da hi didi da da ya da da yanda didi da da yanda didi da da hi da da didi da da yanda didi da da ya da da ya da da didi da da hi da da didi da da ya da da didi da da hi da da yanda ya da da yanda didi da da hi da da didi da da ya da da didi da da hi da da yanda ya da da yanda didi da da yanda didi da da hi da da didi da da yanda didi da da ya da da yanda didi da da yanda didi da da hi da da didi da da yanda didi da da ya da da ya da da didi da da hi da da didi da da ya da da didi da da hi da da yanda ya da da yanda didi da da hi Yeah. I always find that wordless nigunim have a power to them, also because we're not stumbling over to the Hebrew, and it kind of just moves into our neshama and into our soul. And I hope that we'll be able to sing that nigun again together in person. So a little bit about myself and what we're going to be doing here. I keep wanting to say tonight because that's my time zone, and that brings me right into where I am. I live in Yerushalayim. Someone asked me specifically where, so I live in the Katamonim in the south of Jerusalem. I am very blessed to have many synagogues and schools near us that we are able to wholeheartedly attend and feel a part of. I have 4 beautiful boys who will not be traveling with me, but you might hear about them as during my time with you. And really we're very blessed to be living here. I've taught and I've directed multiple different programs within the Jewish community, also in Israel and also in North America. I lived in Boston for a few years. As a child, I lived in LA. Both of my parents are educators, and my father's a rabbi and a cantor. And what I hope to share with you a little bit tonight is some of my roots and where I kind of came from. My grandfather, who we just said the last Kaddish for on Friday, and we were able to do that at the Kotel, and really it was a very meaningful moment. But he was a cantor for many years in LA and in Stanford, and he was a 5th generation Yerushalmi, lived in Jerusalem, was born in Jerusalem, fell in love with a Chicagoan girl. And he had finished the music academy here in Jerusalem, and decided that he was destined to be a cantor. And so lived abroad for many years until he returned around 20 years ago to come back and conduct the Jerusalem Chazin's choir until he retired. And so it's, when I tell my story, or when I talk about the family that I grew up in, just to kind of give you a little anecdote of how that kind of continues. When he retired, he decided he had to continue conducting a choir, and so for the past 10 years or so, we've had a family choir where we've had to sit in his living room every other week with a pianist and practice all of the pieces that he taught throughout the years, whether it was Israeli tunes from the 50s or Chazanu pieces, and really growing up with that nusach and just all of the melodies, and knowing what time of year it was by the different tunes that we sang at home, or the certain books that kind of came off the shelf, and things that we had to practice. So, for me, in my mind, Rosh Hashanah really starts on Tisha B'Av, because the minhag, or the tradition in my house, was that you finish your fast and you break your fast on Tisha B'Av, and you pull out the machzor and you start practicing your pieces for Rosh Hashanah. And that's, I was very blessed to really grow up in kind of that in that atmosphere and in that household. I grew up Orthodox. I'm the oldest of 7 children. We're all very different. And I mention that because it was a long journey for me to get to this point in time, where I have been leading different communities in tefillah and in davening during the high holidays for almost 2 decades. Because the first time that I led Kol Nidre, we were back living in Boston. My twins were not yet born. I had my twins in Boston back when we were living there, and I was asked to lead the community that we belonged to Kol Nidre. And I said, Kol Nidre, I haven't even davened Musaf yet on Shabbat. How can you ask me to lead Kol Nidre? I said, okay, I have to talk to my father because he's the expert. He's a cantor as well and a rabbi. And I called him up and I said, I know somebody who's going to lead Kol Nidre. Do you think you can make a recording for him? Because, he really wants to learn good Nusach, and really your Nusach is the best. And at that point in time, he knew that I was talking about myself. And I knew that he knew I was talking about myself, but we weren't at the point where we could really talk about it because this wasn't something that he had expected. I have a younger brother who's 12 months my junior. And from the age of 3, he stood in shul with my father and sang all of the pieces. And I know all the pieces, but I never actually had the opportunity to sing them or to daven. And, if you fast forward 10 years after that point, my father would call me up Erev Rosh Hashanah and say, okay, what tunes are you going to be singing for this and this part of the tefillah? And I love telling that story because it's a story of a journey, and knowing that, first of all, this life is obviously also a journey, but that things take time, and that when we're ready to talk about things, that time happens as well. But I feel very blessed also to be able to be on this journey and to have these opportunities to daven, to pray with different communities. It's always a challenge to step in, first of all, to big shoes, and I just want to thank Chazan Aaron Vitels, who's sitting here tonight, that I had this chut to meet also a few years ago through Hadar at Singing Communities, but really both him and also Rabbi Oren have spent so many hours just kind of guiding me through the traditions of the community and, what tunes do you sing to this? And I know that if there's a certain tune that isn't sung, it's like Yom Kippur didn't happen for some people. And just, feeling that generosity, and I really appreciate that. So before we move on, I wanted to share with you one more nigun. And it might not be a high holiday nigun, and it might not be something that we sing in shul. But after kind of talking at you for a bit and thinking or telling my story about my family, my grandfather always sang this nigun after he washed his hands before making hamotzi on Shabbat. And I always love singing this nigun because it's such a symbol of that davening or tefillah or song doesn't only have to happen within the confines, and excuse me, Rabbi Oren, within the confines of the shul or within the confines of the synagogue, but so much of it does happen at home. And thinking about what does it mean to really bring those tunes home, and hopefully, today we'll be able to kind of also sing together and learn new things together, and for you to be able to bring them back home with you. That's the nigun that my grandfather sang all the time after washing his hands. And I, when I sing it, I just imagine him waiting at the table, waiting for everybody to kind of finish doing their natilat yadayim, finishing to, get the salads on the table and just singing. And we knew that it was just kind of like this, this moment of pause, but also with so much song and meaning. So thank you for just allowing me to share that with you. I would love at this point, and I know that there's, many of you here online, which I'm so happy to see so many faces. Just to hear maybe 2, 3 voices from the kahal, from you about maybe like one meaningful tefillah experience that you remember, that just kind of like sticks out at you and you want to share shortly here. So I'm going to let Jemmy kind of moderate this part. So if you can unmute yourself and then.
Anybody? Raise your hand, wave at me. Don't be shy. Oh, Liz, please.
Liz.
So for me, during the high holidays, I don't know that I can tell you exact prayers. I can only tell you that during the high holidays and during the praying, tears will well up and they just pour out. So, that's what it is for me. It's a very powerful time. Very powerful.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else would like to share a moment?
Oh, Mom, I was waiting.
You know me too well.
I do.
We talk about early memories. And I think one of my very earliest memories is from when I was 3 or 4 years old, sitting with the women up top and hearing the eggman blow the shofar. I mean, that when they talk about Rosh Hashanah and the rabbi says, bring the children down so they can see and hear the shofar being blown. So if you're on the front row of the balcony and you look down and you see this wizardly looking man with a beard, and he was known as the egg man because he was the one who would go through the neighborhood selling fresh eggs. And when he would blow the shofar, everybody was so afraid that he was going to fall over from the effort of doing that because he was just tiny. But I can always hear the sound of the shofar and picture his blowing that, and he didn't fall over. And every year he was back, and that's to me is the beginning of my getting ready for the holiday. I just picture that. No, this is not the Eggman next to me. That's my husband.
That's beautiful. Thank you.
I see Abby has her hand up. And Abby, it's wonderful to see you.
Thank you, Jenny. I had the incredible fortune of davening with Gussie Reinhardt for 10 years beside me, and most of you know her. She's the elder in the Jewish community here. And the time I remember is during Aleinu when it was 95 degrees out, and she stood beside me and did many full prostrations to the ground with tears in her eyes, and so in love. And that's just been a gift for me my entire life, that bowing by this woman who was so elderly and frail, and my amazing teacher.
Thank you, Abby. Marshall, I see you raised a virtual hand.
Hi, nice to see you and welcome. Looking forward to being with you. So you and I talked when we interviewed about the Chazanut background in my family. So I have been blessed to have been in a congregation where both my dad and my Zaidi were leading services. But one of the great memories I had was I was living on the Upper West Side of Manhattan in the late 80s, and I went to the Carlbach Shul for Kol Nidre. And it was like, it was different than any Kol Nidre I've ever been to, because it was a singing and dancing celebration. The Karlbach Shul, he viewed Yom Kippur and Kol Nidre in a different way, almost in a looking glass or a mirror, as how to approach Hashem for Yom Kippur. And it was with joy and celebration, along with the seriousness of it. So that was an incredible experience that I had for a Kol Nidre and a Yom Kippur.
That's beautiful. Thank you. And so really, I want to thank you, Marshall, because I'm going to segue straight into a short text that I brought to frame, I think, a little bit of our learning or our deep dive, as you coined it, into our high holiday liturgy. Because I would say that there's like a great meme that goes around in Israel during this time of year, because the Sfaradim and those who come from Sephardi backgrounds have started Slichot already. They're like way into it. Like 2 weeks ago, they've already started from the beginning of Elul, and every night, and they're there, and it's kind of like a picture of like a rock concert, because there's a lot of like up tunes. It's some of it's like really fun. And on the other side, it's kind of like the Ashkenazi Slichot, which is like very much, sad and slow, and thinking about that, the differences also in culture, but also kind of in what is Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, and how we frame this time of year, and looking at this tkufa, or at these times of saying Slichot, more as an opportunity, right? I was like, yeah, everybody makes mistakes, but like the question is like, what do we do, day after? How do we kind of move forward from that and move on? So I am going to share my screen at this point, even though I don't love doing that, because I also love seeing all of your faces. But in order for us to kind of do a little bit of text and a little bit of singing today, this will be helpful. So Heschel in Man's Quest for God really talks about this issue, because it's not easy to pray. It's just one of those things. I talk about it a lot with my children and with my students, and he's he writes like this, and I feel like this always kind of catches my eye at this time of year. The problem is not how to revitalize prayer. The problem is how to revitalize ourselves. Religious movements in our history have often revolved around the problem of liturgy. To Kabbalah and Hasidism, the primary problem was how to pray. To the modern movements, the primary problem was what to say. What has Hasidism accomplished? It inspired worship in a vast number of Jews. What have the moderns accomplished? They have inspired the publication of a vast number of prayer books. Right? We think of all the different kind of publications of Sidurim that have come out. We must learn how to study the inner life of the words that fill the world of our prayer book. This is our affliction. We do not know how to look across a word to its meaning. We forgot how to find the way to the word, how to be on intimate terms with the few passages in the prayer book. Familiar with all the words, we are intimate with none. The same word may evoke new understanding when read with an open heart. And I'll keep this a little bit on the screen as I speak a little bit about what this kind of means to me. And when we went, and when Rabbi Oren and I, we were going through the tefillot, and what should we highlight, and what should we, there are so many words, and there's so much text, and you're so many hours in shul during Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and the challenge is, how is it that we are able to, one, make it meaningful, and maybe we don't understand every word, and maybe that's okay, and to kind of be able to lean into that. As well, because I can promise you that Hebrew speakers and Israelis don't understand every word either, and kind of realizing that prayer has a deeper, I would say, tafkid, a deeper job or meaning beyond the words, and the words are important. So I think what we're going to try and also do here today is kind of balance between those two. And so as I already opened up and started saying that the Sfaradim, and I'm sure that there's some people who come from Sephardi backgrounds also here in the Kahal, have started saying Slichot. there is, I would say, like one very popular piyut that you can also hear here on the radio if you turn on the radio during this time of year in Israel, is Adonai Selichot, and Adonai Selichot is an unknown author. It's a piyut from an unknown author, but one of the most popular piyutim that is mostly sung in the tune of the tradition of the Sfaradi Yerushalmi. And so one of the reasons kind of that I bring in here tonight, today, I'm going to say, I know it's morning by you. I'm trying to wrap my head around that. One of the one of the things I would say that define this piyut is that if you can already see that it's according to the Aleph Bet, Adon Haselichot Bochen Levavot Bet Gole Amukot Gimel Dover Tzedakot. Obviously, one of the ways that Paitanim, the people who really wrote piyutim, were able to ensure people will remember it, right? Because just like we know, a lot of different tefillot are in the Aleph Bet, and in order for people to remember, because print wasn't so accessible. I'll just sing the first two, just so that we kind of are able to hear it a little bit, and keep in mind though, so that for some people that this is kind of like their entry point into the Chagim, as we say slichot. Adon Selichot Bochen Levavot Gole Amukot Dover Tzedakot Chatanu lefanecha Rachem aleinu Adu beniflaot Vatik benechamot Zocher berit avot Choker kelayot Chatanu lefanecha Rachem aleinu Chatanu lefanecha Rachem aleinu. We have sinned before you. Have mercy upon us. I mean, it's like a beautiful, sweet tune, and beautiful words as well, right? We acknowledge the fact that that God is forgiving, knower of thoughts, a revealer of the concealed, speaks of truth, and acknowledging, yes, okay, we have sinned, that's true, and yet we ask for God to have mercy and rachem aleinu rachamim. So really one of kind of like the entry points into the Chagim, very similar to and that for me is really the beginning of Chag when I hear that in Shul. So as we move on, and as promised, I thought to share just a little bit of this is a picture of my grandfather, of Chazan Binyamin Glickman, and one of his many choirs. I don't even know which one, but I see this picture, and I failed to remember who mentioned before, but just coming to Shul and crying. And right before I got on this Zoom, I said to my husband Ari, I was like, how am I going to get through this without crying? I always cry. And so it's that's part and part of my childhood memories, and I would say even adult memories, because in later years we had a Rosh Hashanah minyan for our family, and my grandfather would daven Musaf, and every year without fail he would break down and cry. And for me, and I imagine also for my kids and for my siblings, just being able to see that, knowing that that's what we do, right? In shul, there's just something so emotional about the tefillot, and having that moment, and just making space for that. I feel like is so important, and not always an easy thing to do. I wanted to just share another piece, and I was again, I'm very blessed to have learned a lot of my nusach from my grandfather, and he has many recordings in the Israel National Library that are available online. But he sang in a boys' choir back pre-state, in a choir called the Rivlin. Zalman Rivlin was a choir master and a rabbi here in Jerusalem. And he sang in his boys' choir and learned a lot of his nosach. And even many of the chazanish, I would say, kind of like in air quotes, pieces that he would do, he learned from him, and very much felt like it was accessible to the community, and invited people in to kind of come along and to be with him in that moment. And I know I went a little heavy here by choosing Shofar Gadol Yitaka, but I felt like it was a very very telling a piece of his nosach, and also very much a part of mine in the tefillah of Rosh Hashanah. So this specific tefillah is a part of Unetanet Tokef, kind of one of the highlights, I would say, of our Musaf service, both on both days of Rosh Hashanah and on Yom Kippur. And you never know, I might surprise you by doing this in shul, and I might decide to go a different way, because that's also kind of how I do things, and kind of be in the moment. But what I'm going to sing for you now is really the way that I learned it, and the way that I sing it with my grandfather and my father for many, many years. ובשופר גדול יתקע, וכל דממה דקה ישן, ומלאכים יחפזון, וכיל אורדה יחזון, ויאמרו הנה יום הדין, לפקוד על הצבא מרום בדין, לפקוד על הצבא מרום בדין, כי לא יזכו מעיניך בדין, וכל בעולם יעבוד לפניך, כי ביניהם מרום כבקעת אוי מעביר רצונו תחת שיבתו, אוי הקרן תביא ותספור ותימנה ותפקוד, אוי הנפש אורך, כן תביא ותספור ותימנה ותפקוד נפש כל החי ותחתוך יצווה לכל בריותיך ותכתוב את גזר דינם וראש השנה יבוא וביום עצור כיפור יחטא ימו. You notice that the nusach really, in this case, kind of interacts with the words, right? It starts off with hu v'shofar gadol yitaka, kind of like a very large sound, and then it goes a little bit quietly. V'kol mamadaka yishama, and really a thin, silent voice shall be heard. And there's something so, beautiful about having kind of the melody and the words meshed together and be able to really also enhance each other and enhance the meaning. And even if we don't understand every word, but to be able to feel the feeling of what the words are trying to say to us through that music. And when I think of the awesome responsibility that you've given into my hands for the upcoming high holiday season, I think about that a lot. In the tunes that we choose, in the way that we are able to kind of bring the community in, whether it's through song, through Torah, to be able to give a deeper meaning and to make things, I would say, the tefillot relevant to us, to you, and to see, and as I see myself as and I would say more of a shlichat tzibur, so as an emissary, a shlicha of you, to be able to enhance the tefillah. Any thoughts or anyone before I kind of like rush on to the next? If anyone wanted to share anything, wanted to give the opportunity.
Yeah, it was beautiful. I have to say, it was beautiful.
Okay. So the next piyut, and when I say piyut, it's I would say you could translate as hymn, but we have piyutim in all of our tefillot, on weekdays, on Shabbatot, and definitely a lot on the high holidays. Is the piyut ve'ye'etayu, and this piyut has many different tunes to it. And I was reading actually in Rabbi Sachs' Haggadah about this piyut because I when I think of the length of the Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur davening, I've mentioned to my children before, like if you really can't sit and be in shul for the whole time, at least come for the repetition of the Amidah, of Musaf, you have shofar blowing, and to count the amount of times that you see the word melech. Because when we think of Rosh Hashanah and what the meaning of the day is, we think of kind of like coronation day, right? We're mamlichim melech. This is what the day is about. And as I say now, we're about to witness maybe another coronation on the other side of the world in England. But really thinking about what does lehavdil, right? What does it mean when we have so many repetitive ways to say or tefillot within our Rosh Hashanah davening about melucha, about lahamlich melech, about crowning, right, God. And this piyut really comes at the end of, I like to call them all the uvchenim. So there's like a lot of words that happen before this piyut happens. And so there's a lot of like, blah, 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 and you have to kind of like rush along with me as we do in Shul. And then we get to this piyut. And it, you know, when I was reading through the Saks Agada, he was talking about, or he told the story of Rav Yosef Soloveitchik, that was talking about his childhood back in, I can't even pronounce the name of the town that he came from, and he remembers his teachers. So Rav Soloveitchik's teacher when he was a child, he remembered him as asking him, you know, do you know what Rosh Hashanah is? And he says the Rebbe would call it the night of the coronation night, right? The night that we are Mamlich Melech, the night of coronation. And then he would ask the children, who do you think that we are crowning at this night, in this night? And the children answered the Tsar, right? Because that was the village that they lived in. And he said, well, why do you think he needs to be crowned again? He already has a crown, right? He's and besides the fact that he's not a real king. So then kind of having this back and forth with the teacher of, you know, what does it really mean to crown the king? And Rav Soloveitchik then retelling this story and reminiscing, saying that every year when he recites the Rosh Hashanah prayers, rule over the whole world in your glory, he remembers his teacher as a young child. And I was reading through it, and I hadn't met, you know, I wasn't going to share this this story, but I felt like it was so sweet and so on point that even we're able to kind of just think of one aspect or to focus on one kind of thing throughout our tefillah, throughout our davening, to hold on to, because there's so many different themes that we can kind of get lost in all of the words, and then going back to that, you know, I had asked you to think about what are those memories of those meaningful tefillah experiences, and Rav Soloveitchik talks about, you know, joking around that we're crowning the Tsar on Rosh Hashanah, going back to that kind of that idea of V'yitnu lecha keter melucha. And so I already have an agreement with Rabbi Oren that we are going to be giving out some pieces of this piyut to members of the congregation, so that we can really sing this together over Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Because one of the nice things I would say about leading a kahal in tefillah is to be able to also get some input and to have some other people participate. And so I'm going to teach it here today, and I'm going to ask for each of you in your homes to just chant along the chorus line, or like the line that kind of repeats itself of V'yitnu lecha keter melucha. In the transliteration, not in the Hebrew, but I kind of bolded it in Hebrew, and it goes like this. Ve'yetayu kol le'ovdecha. That's the person who's leaning, it says. And then the kahal answers, Ve'yitnu lecha keter melucha. My turn. Ve'yevachu Hashem kevodecha. Now it's your turn. Ve'yitnu lecha keter melucha. Back to me. ויגידו באים צדקך, ויתנו לך כתר מלוכה, עלי, 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 I have to shout. Hey, hi, la, 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 Now it's going to be the next person, but I'm going to imitate as if it's them. וידרשוך עמים לא ידעוך, ויתנו לך כתר מלוכה, ויעללוך כל אפסי הארץ, ויתנו לך כתר מלוכה, ויאמרו תמיד יגדל אדוני, ויתנו לך כתר מלוכה, אלי 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 repeat after me. ויתנו לך כתר מלוכה, 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 עלי 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 This is a tune, a Hasidic tune, that has become very, very popular among also yeshiva kids and liberal circles, and kind of Hadar, I think, has a recording of it somewhere on their website as well. But it's really kind of like a highlight of the service, because we've, as I mentioned, went through all of those words that we said before. And got really to the essence of Vitnu Lecha Keter Menucha, and really thinking about that concept of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. So first of all, just thank you for singing along, and I saw that some of you also know the tune, but also kind of belted it out with me, and I appreciate that, because it's always awkward on Zoom. I have a great story about this. So first of all, I was pleasantly surprised to find out also from the rabbi and the chazan that you are used to singing this to the tune of the Chabad tune. And I went looking for the source of the tune of the Chabad tune. So yes, it was written by it was composed as a nigun, as a wordless nigun by Chabad in the 19th century. And it made its way over, excuse me, and it made its way over to Israel, pre-state. And the story goes like this, that in the pogroms, I guess, in 1929 in Po'ot Talpat, there was a soldier or someone in the Haganah at the time. There was no Tzahal at the time, but someone in the Haganah found out that he had a son that was born while he was out defending wherever. I'm going to get into the details. And so decided to write a song as a lullaby for his son, and put it to the tune of this Chabad nigun. And this lullaby really gained popularity among the kibbutzim and among not necessarily religious crowds in Israel, again pre-state. And the story goes that a few years later, or 10 years later or so, it made its way back to Jerusalem, to the Chabad community, who then put it to this piyut that we sing on Yom Kippur night. And I was reading this really sweet story and saying to myself, wait a minute, I do know that lullaby, but I never made the connection that that's the same nigun. And when you think of kind of like Gilgulo shel Shir, the way that kind of tunes and words and poems kind of make their way one to each other, but also, we go back to this Chabad tune and say, oh, of course, it was composed for this piyut. Like, how could it not have been composed for this piyut? And knowing that it has, more of a history or more of a story, I thought was just kind of a beautiful, little anecdote to kind of, talk about, because some of the things that we sing during the high holidays, or in a certain way, or in a certain tune, we feel have kind of been there forever, and maybe they have. For there are certain tunes that we say that are misinai, right? There's kind of like this notion in Nusach and in Chazanut that these are tunes from Sinai that you don't change them. They're very, very old. And that's, that is definitely a part of our tradition. And other ones kind of made their way into our repertoire and feel so a part of our tradition that we think that they've just always been there. There have been a lot of different versions of this nigun with this piyut, sung by also modern Israeli artists. I'm happy to send some links over to Jemmy later if you want to kind of prepare yourself before the Yamim Noraim as well. This is one of my favorite piyutim that we sing together on Erev Yom Kippur, giving all kinds of different images of what we are in the hands of God, right? So behold, we are like clay in the hands of the crafter. Ki hine kachomer beyad hayotzer, who lengthens and shortens it at will. Birtzato marchiv uvirtzato mekatzer. Ken anachnu be'adcha. Thus we are in your hands, merciful Creator. Chesed notzer, labrit habet, ve'al tefen layetzer. Thus we are in your hands. Remember the covenant and do not listen to the evil. Don't go after the evil. I don't know if inclination, but layetzer. It doesn't say yetzer hara, so I don't know about this translation. Ki aneka chomer beyad hayotzer. Birtzoto malchi uvirtzoto mekatzer. Ken anachnu beyad chesed notzer labrit habet ve'al tefen layetzer. Ki beyad hamisater, birtzoto orfez, uvirtzoto mechatet. Ken anachnu beyachad mechayehu emoteach labrit habet ve'al tefen layetzer. Ay da dai, ay da dai, idi dai da dai dai dai, idi dai da dai dai dai, ay da, idi dai da dai dai dai. Ay dai dai, ay dai dai, idi dai da dai. Ay, ay, no, ay, no, ay, no, no, did I, no, no, ay, ay, no. Can really see how it could be a lullaby. Right? I feel like that's definitely it's beautiful. Can't wait to sing it with you guys. Haneshamalach, I would say it's like one of the tunes or one of the songs that really is identified with this time of year. Also because we start saying it this coming Saturday night in our slichot, and it shows up in our slichot night after night, all the way to Yom Kippur, and we will sing the Haneshamalach that you all know, and also I wanted to kind of sing the additional or maybe a tune that kind of leads into it. למענך אלוהינו עשה ולא לנו אויראה עמידתנו אוי דלים וקים אוי הנשמה oy usa anamana oya oya nishama oy oy pona usa oya oya shama anesha amala oy veya ola oya usa usa oya Before we say our goodbyes, at least for now, until next week, I wanted to share one last thing that I was blessed to learn from a real teacher of Chassidut. Her name is Ruth Yair Nussbaum, and she teaches here in Jerusalem. And I learned with her many years ago, and she really changed my whole outlook on what Yom Kippur was. Always feeling like you went into Yom Kippur like very heavy and very tense and nervous, and is this day gonna end well or not end well? And I want to kind of go back to what was said here before about the kind of like joy in the day, and the joy that also Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur bring us, and knowing that just the fact, in a lot of Jewish law and halakha, they talk about itzumo shel yom, or the power of the day of Yom Kippur is that it just happens, right? Regardless of kind of like what we do. And yes, please come to shul and we'll daven together and it'll be great. And just knowing kind of like it kind of lessens the anxiety around the fact that like it happens, and then there's a whole new year and there's a whole clean slate, and there's a lot of joy in that. And come to this Torah of Rabbi Nachman Mibreslav, which is, one of the, I don't study him a lot, but this is one Torah that Ruth Yair Nussbaum kind of goes back to before every Yom Noraim, before every Rosh Hashanah, and I'll read it out in the Hebrew and in the English. כי צריך האדם לחפש ולבקש למצוא בעצמו איזה מעט טוב. A person has to search and seek to find in himself or herself some little bit of good, כדי להחיות את עצמו ולבוא לידי שמחה, in order to revive himself or herself and to attain joy, as explained above. We didn't read above, but it is explained above. ועל ידי זה שמחפש ומוצא בעצמו עדיין מעט טוב, by searching until he finds or she finds a remaining little bit of good in himself or herself, על ידי זה הוא יוצא באמת מכף חובה לכף זכות. They genuinely move from the scale of guilt to the scale of merit. ויוכל לשוב בתשובה, and can return to God in repentance. בבחינות ועוד מעט ואין רשע והתבוננת על מקומו ואיננו. This in the aspect of, and he quotes here, pasuk, and yet a little bit the wicked man is not, he will reflect upon his place and he will not be there, as explained above. And I go back to this, לחפש ולבקש למצוא בעצמו, to search and to seek, to find in themselves some little bit of good in order to revive themselves and to attain joy. And I wanna leave you with that thought, because sometimes we tend to, maybe it's only, I'm sure it's not only me, but we tend to be hard on ourselves and kind of like look for all the flaws and look for all the ve'al chetim. And I heard also from Rabbi Oren that we there's the positive ashamnu bagadnu, and I love that tradition as well, and bringing in the good things that we've done and to remind ourselves to look for those kind of points of light and to look for the good, and not always to kind of like focus on the bad or on the sins or on the things that we have to repent for. Important to have kind of that reflection and the introspection of this time of year, and to remember that we're given second chances every single year, which I find so comforting. And kind of that holds me through this time. And so I will stay on for a little bit more if people kind of just want to have questions or just want to chat or share some thoughts. But I want to just thank you so much for all of you for being here today and for joining me. And not this Shabbat, but next Shabbat, I will be in town. And so I welcome you to come over and remind me what your names are, because I definitely won't remember all of them. And I look forward to sharing some time and tefillah with you. So Shana Tova in the meantime.
Shana Tova to you. Thank you very much.
If people have questions for Avnama, if you'll use your virtual hand raise, that will jump you up to the upper part of the screen, so I'm not scrolling between screens. But please, we've got a few minutes to ask some questions or share some thoughts. Yeah. Anybody? Anybody? You can also use the chat if you want to. Wow, this isn't usually such a shy group.
I just want to say that I'm really looking forward to meeting you and having you over here and hearing more about you. You're quite a fascinating person, and you have such a wealth of experience, and the connections that you have into our traditions is very inspiring. Very inspiring.
Thank you. Thank you. Really looking forward. Thank you.
Well, this has been recorded, so we'll have the link available in next week's eBlast if anybody wants to go back and listen again and look at the slides that Rav Naama shared. And we'll stay on for a couple more minutes if anyone has any more thoughts or questions.
Jimmy, will this be available in the link on the website also because I would love to direct a lot of people I know to this, to both encourage them to help get ready for the Yamim Noraim, but also to encourage them maybe to come to Shari Torah where they may not have otherwise been thinking about that.
Right. So yes, we'll put this into our archives, and I can ask Ilana to add it to our High Holy Day page. So thank you for that. And everybody, what's our slogan for this year?
CST, your place to be at 8783.
That's right. Remember, tell your friends, no tickets necessary, registration only. Yes, CST, your place to be in 5783. We are that dorky.
I love it.
Yeah. All right. Well, Rav Naama, thank you so much for taking this time with us. I know it's late for you. It's just midday for us. So we will let you go spend time in the evening with your family. We are so looking forward to seeing you in a little over a week. Yay!
Yay. Yay.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Have a great weekend, everyone.
Take good care.